NVIDIA just got hit and reported with a $5.5 billion export charge that will begin reporting quarterly. Now, we just don't want to believe any headlines out here. We want to read into what this actually means for NVIDIA shareholders, which in the long term means buy the dip, right? Let's just keep it right off the rip, simple and plain, okay? But what does this mean in the short term? Can it come lower, down back underneath 100? Can we get those lower ends of the ranges that a lot of investors have been wanting? The back to the 80s, the back to the 70s, maybe then the 60s, things of that nature. And we'll talk about it in today's video. I'll give you my chart analysis, my technicals on NVIDIA, and how we inside of Leverage University, which is my Discord community, we're going to capitalize tomorrow on the put side of NVIDIA, because NVIDIA was one of my top watches today as I saw weakness underneath that 114, 113 level, okay, which we signaled puts inside of our community with the structure, and some people swung some puts into today. Now, we did not know the drasticness of this news. We did not have any insider information. That is why I just trust the technicals and the charts. If you have not gone and listened to my last video, please go check that out. I went over a whole masterclass of how to read the stock charts. And when these news events happen, it typically already exacerbates or expedites the move that you were maybe looking for and waiting for. Okay, it doesn't always happen, but more times than not, the charts will tell the story and the news will exacerbate it in your direction. All right. So with that being said, without further ado, let's jump into it today. If you could for me, hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell if you have been a supporter here on the channel. If you're new coming forth, my name is Dr. B. I'm a holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Been an investor and trader actively in the markets for the last 6 going on 7 years. Have traded 2018 tariff war before, and then the 2022 bear market. So traded up and down and in between, volatility, all those good things. And I think a lot of people are learning a lot of lessons of how this is a completely different market. A lot of money can be made, but also the swinging of options contracts, the way that you dollar cost average on the way down, the position sizing that you have, loading the boat too early and then not having the cash on hand to continue to add more, right? All these lessons are being learned from new investors, very similar to how 2020 washed out a lot of people, or people got frustrated during 2022 when that big dip continued to drop, right? You've got to be strategic in these types of markets, and no one's perfect. Neither am I. But when you have proper risk management, when you lower your position sizing, when you're patient enough for long-term investing and or day trading is going to be wonderful in this type of market. All right, so let's jump into it. Check those links down below. I'd love to have you inside of our community, and I'll show you that towards the latter half of the video. All right, let's read it together for all of us to understand what's going on. So NVIDIA says it will record $5.5 billion charge tied to the H20 processors exported to China. And as we know, for most of you that know, China and the US are going with this tariff war. Right? I'm going to charge you 125. I'm going to up you 145. We don't know how China's going to respond, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Okay. There's no backing down on either side. And it's pretty much China versus the US, and the rest of the world is watching. Okay. So with that being said, we know, you know, that majority of the US goods that we purchase are typically made in China. Okay. And the business that's being done and dealt with, especially with the AI movement, we have 2 of the largest economies in the world battling it out, okay? And there's trying to strong arm each other. Now, when you have a significant company like NVIDIA that is a major mover in the stock market that has made a lot of people money long-term share-wise and also trading-wise, everyone has their eyes on NVIDIA, especially folks that had no idea what NVIDIA was necessarily, and they added it to their portfolio in the last 3 to 4 years. Okay. So with that being said, let's read it together here. The stock slid almost 5% in extended trading after hours. The US government during the Biden administration restricted AI chip exports in 2022 and then updated the rules the following year to prevent the sale of more advanced AI processors. So we've got a transfer of power. You have a person in power now trying to undo those things, bring power back to the US. And now it's kind of leaning in on the back end where this is starting to affect Jensen Huang and his team. Okay. So I just called a man Jensen. Okay. NVIDIA said on Tuesday that it will take a quarterly charge of 5.5 billion tied to exporting H20 graphics processing units to China and other destinations. Okay. On April 9th, the government told NVIDIA it would require a license to export the chips to China and a handful of other countries. The company said in a filing. I'm not going to read all of this. You can read it yourself, but I'm going to skip to some significant pieces here. If you've noticed or been watching the earnings, the past previous earnings with NVIDIA, they have not been the best guidance forward with Jensen speaking about NVIDIA going forward. He has been constantly telling, and who knows, like if you have insider information, hey, don't tell me, keep it to yourself, but great for you. All right. However, Jensen has been saying in the earnings calls previously that there have been a little bit of sticking points with NVIDIA and the growth. He was talking about the forward nature. It's going to take 5 years plus for this really AI boom to happen. And I'm paraphrasing here. Okay. In his last quarterly earnings call in February, that revenue from China had dropped to half of pre-export control levels. Jensen warned that competition in China is growing. And for the second straight year, he's listed Huawei, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I do apologize, as a competitor in its annual filing. Okay. So this also kind of comes into conjunction. If you remember that DeepSeek competitor there, it talks about it here as well. See it all the way down at the bottom here where, let's see, DeepSeek. Where is it? I just read it earlier. Okay. NVIDIA's H20 chips comparable to H100s, H200 AI chips, but slower interconnection speeds. AI architecture introduced Hopper in 2022. NVIDIA is now focused on selling its current generation of AI chips called Blackwell. DeepSeek, the Chinese company whose competitive AI model R1 unveiled earlier this year up and in markets, used H20 chips in its research. So all this being said, fundamental news drives the price down, which creates a better opportunity for buyers, buy it lower. But the question now when we jump on the charts is, where is it headed? Okay, that is the question. Okay, where is it headed? All right, so I'm gonna click on the video here. Now, one thing I'll show you just for reference, here's our Discord. Okay, there's a lot of happy folks inside Leverage University. Okay, day trade signals. Okay, so let's look at my watch list first from this morning. This was posted at 6:20 a.m. I'm on the Eastern Standard Time. So 10 minutes before market open, I was giving some watch list levels here. Here's NVIDIA watching 112 to 115 level to see if we show weakness, watching 109 for continued weakness. So showing you the plan right there. And the reason why I was having that plan is because when I jump on the charts, what I was seeing is somewhat of a big resistance that was stepping in underneath 115. Okay. The previous day, we got a big rejection, a double top rejection underneath and failure underneath 115. These candlesticks, which again, if you have not watched the previous video that I posted about the charts, let me highlight it for you, rectangle. This right here was a signal for me personally. Okay. It does not mean NVIDIA is not going to go up. But when I see short-term signals like this, I'm on a 4-hour time frame. It's a higher time frame confirmation. We had volume come off of that level at 115 twice. Okay. Now, what I was looking for coming into today is I was looking for somewhat of a lower high rejection. Okay. What that means is that as this failed here, and then as this failed here with volume, all I was looking for was a third confirmation today that we were going to continue down further. And if you see the candle that we had here this morning, we had a pop up and a run up into 113, and I saw a failure back down to 111. Okay. That candle right there, if you're not too familiar with candle structure, that tells me sellers are still very heavily present. So while everyone was not everyone, but probably the majority of you or NVIDIA bulls, which I am long-term, NVIDIA bulls, I've been concerned with NVIDIA overall ever since, I think I've been telling my community this, if you're inside of Leverage University, ever since NVIDIA's past couple of earnings, I've been a little bit concerned because the trend has been a double top up here at the highs with lower lows and lower highs forming in a bearish market. Okay. So I wasn't really confident in NVIDIA pushing up confirmingly, right? Until we got a daily candle close in my eyes above 125. Okay. I wanted it to take out this previous green candle here above 121. And I wanted to start looking like that. That would give me more of a confirmation that, okay, there's a possibility. There's no more shorting right now. There's no more lows. That's the bottom. And we're going back up. Okay. So I wasn't shocked that this news came out because I'll go back to our Discord here. I was looking for that and expecting us to come down, but some of you are like, you don't know that. I wasn't expecting it to drop overnight. I was expecting it to come down back to 110. And then my final target, if it exacerbated during the day, was down to 107, 108. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Day trade signals. Okay. If I go back to the start of the day, this was at 7:06 a.m. PST. Okay. So the market opens at 6:30 on the West Coast. This was roughly 30 minutes into the market. I'm in starters. That means I'm going ahead and exposing myself to a downside position. Currently 110 put starters, average cost $160 per contract. Okay. But I'm still ready to add higher. Look at how the structure looked. Do you see, once I saw that candle come off of there, okay, just like that, I was waiting for it to push higher, but I was going ahead and exposing myself to that downside position once I saw that candle come in. Now, some of you may be looking at this and saying, well, Brian, it's forming higher lows here and it's trending upwards. Why would you try to short this? Because again, I was looking at that bigger time frame candle structure on a, let's just, what was that? That just say 2 hour, okay? 2 hour and 4 hour. I was still looking at this very heavy area. I'll draw it all in red here for you. This very heavy area of resistance all right in there. Okay. That was my full channel that if it was going to really take off strong, right, it would need to give me a complete green candle boost and closure above 115 like that. And I just was not seeing it because as a day trader, right, what we're able to see is we're looking at those lower time frames. Okay. I'm watching the 5 minute and the 15-minute candles. And as they're pushing up and up, rejections, big wicks coming in at the top, big wicks coming at the top. Yes, this is a continuation, but it's not very strong because we're still not back up into this 115. And once I saw this kind of starting to form this lower high, and also the market was getting weaker. Okay. The market was fairly weak all day. Okay. It was chopping in this zone, chopping in this zone, chopping in the zone. So I've heard some tweets that, it's been ugly the past couple of days. It's been a chop fest. Why would you trade this? Right. I wasn't trading SPY. I was trading the overall kind of weakness on a larger time frame of SPY curling over like this. Okay. So I had a trend line on the S&P 500 and I was starting to see that we were rolling over throughout the day. Okay. So with that showing weakness in the Qs or the tech index, the NASDAQ, as I'm seeing that lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, right? I was confident in my position and also telling it to my community live that, hey, I'm going short for the short term. Okay. I'm taking a short trade for the short term. I'm in 110 puts, average cost 160. I'm going to add more if it pushes up into that 113, 114 with a stop loss above 115. Okay. Here it is. I added a little bit more, up 15% for entry. So it's starting to work, right? In our favor. Keep stop loss above 113, right? For those that wanted to take this profit. That was the first move. Then it went higher. Okay. I did have to stop out. I was very transparent with my community, right? NVIDIA stopped out. I was up 30%, didn't trim. I was in starter size, added slightly. Great. Took a little loss, paper cut. I re-entered slightly lower cost. I'm back in the trade. I like it even more now. Okay. And I'm showing this trade to show you, and I'll get to my long-term investors. Brian, where is it going? Get to the point. I'm showing you how the technicals, as I'm an advocate of, will keep you in the game and keep your emotions intact from like, oh my gosh, I wake up, it's going here. I wake up, it's going there. I wake up, it's going here. They're trying to finagle everybody. I don't think about any of that. You keep your wrist tight. You focus on the charts that you can trade. And if you decide to swing something into the next day, okay, meaning holding a trade into the next day, that means that you understand what the risk is. Okay. So with that being said, I was updating throughout the day. I even gave another trade on Palantir. Okay. I said, hey, big break of 112. It was starting to work. All right. There's that weakness that came into the market and back into NVIDIA. It failed back underneath 113. That's where I got back in. Okay. Now, it was chopping around, holding this. It was almost like a rising wedge, as we call it. Okay. It was just rising into this wedge and started rolling over. And towards the end of the day, right, here's that rising wedge, kind of like that. And it could have broken out either way. It could have broken out above. But again, those higher time frame candles, those 2 hour, 4 hour candles, do you see? Some might say this is a inverted hammer candle, okay? An inverted hammer candle or a shooting star, okay? Shooting star candle, okay? That is a bearish sign, okay? Look at this candle right there. Do you see right here? Do you see right here? Right? It typically follows by downside. So after seeing these things, the inevitable was probably going to happen, right? But when the market closed, it did not happen when the market was open, okay? That would have been awesome. End of the day, you release the news right before the market, and that's where the manipulation and the traps happen, okay? The trap for most people that get frustrated with the overall market is not that you woke up and you were in calls, or you woke up and you had too much size, or you woke up and you're like, dang, I should have got in puts. How they're always messing with us. It was looking at candle structure, trusting the trade, and then whatever happens after that, right? It typically follows suit. Okay. The news exacerbated the structure, which was inevitable. You want to see what a rising wedge looks like? Okay. Like, man. Okay. If you're experienced, if you know these things, now a rising wedge can look different ways. Okay. It can be on an uptrend. You see that? Rises, breaks out of that channel. Okay. Here it is again. Rises, breaks out of that channel. Sometimes it'll be falling into a bear flag and then goes out. Okay. So I want you to look at that again. Let me take off some of these. Go watch my intro to charting video that I just posted. Okay. Rises and grinds, right into a resistance right there at 114 roughly. And then it finally takes suit and comes back out. Okay. Now, I'll summarize this video into a positive note. Okay. Where is it going? Where do I buy the dip? What's the game plan for tomorrow on the market now that this has happened? Okay. This is not good news for NVIDIA bulls in the short term. Okay. To see this type of news that they're going to take a hit, this might affect profit margins. We don't know what their earnings are going to look like. Their earnings is coming up in a little bit, right? It's all manipulative. Okay. So some levels to follow, okay, for tomorrow is you want to watch, again, the levels are leveling right back into a support zone right here. Do you see that? Okay. Now we do see some resistance kind of stepping in pre-market that I want to watch, which is that 107 level, which is right here. Do you see it rejecting that long wick right there, rejecting at 106.50? Just say that. So I'll mark that. Get ready for tomorrow. I'll mark that. And we may have continued selling back into those lows of 102 to 100. Okay. I want you to look here. What happened last time NVIDIA got stuck underneath this 107? It's just repeating a pattern. It went to where? Before it got some relief. Right there at 101 to 102. Okay. So that's where I do believe NVIDIA is trying to head back to, is to retest that 102 to 101 area if it continues selling. Okay. Because that is previous support right here. It's all in a zone. It's a big zone right there. Okay. Where it could hold up for some real weird reason, trap shorts again. People that, man, I'm going to play puts on NVIDIA tomorrow right away. And then it traps them and it squeezes right back up. That is a possibility because it's going right into a support zone. All right. Now, what if it breaks underneath that level? Okay. It can come underneath and we just sell in the morning potentially. And now that's where you get that downside continuation. Okay. Back into, I do believe there's a gap fill down here. Okay. Remember, if you've been following me for a minute, those gaps like to get filled. Go watch my Sunday market analysis. I think I touched on this. Okay. Somehow, some way that gap down to 96 is going to get filled. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to be, but typically downside gaps like to get filled first. From my experience in my style of trading is anytime I see a gap that's to the downside like that, okay, that didn't get fully filled, I'm a little bit cautious of if it gets too far away from that, it typically wants to come back and fill that gap first. Okay. Typically, not 100% of the time, but if I start seeing it head there, I know exactly where it's headed. So what did I just say before to summarize is that you want to watch, this is where it is now, right? Right at this 104 area. Okay. That is technically in support. It could bounce, right? But you want to watch for that lower high again, the higher it goes back up into the 108 to 110 area. If it gets back up to that 110, it could form a lower high and then sell even more. And then we're coming back down like that. Okay. Because we've just broken structure. And if it can't hold this big support area that we're going to have now, right? I'll raise this up here. It's all support here. It just depends on the reaction. Okay. If it gets aggressive, I'll look at the next support area. If it gets super aggressive, I know the final target of it. If we hold and we reclaim and get back above that 112 area, okay, if we get back above there like that, then I can change all of this. Okay. So the charts will tell you the story, typically the fundamentals and the news. That's what fundamental analysis will follow suit, or it will exacerbate that move in your direction. So Brian, how will this gap get filled at the top? Right? This could happen. We could springboard, right? NVIDIA has earnings coming up pretty soon, right there at the end of May, but also TSM's earnings, which is Taiwan Semiconductors earnings, are this week. So the TSM earnings will affect NVIDIA one way or the other. So just say TSM has good earnings and it goes parabolic. Okay, well, that was a fake out news article, and then we're going right back up and NVIDIA is off to the races, right? To fill that top end of the gap, and we're right back at 120. Trust the charts, follow the levels, trade off the levels, and they will save you from the emotional headache that you see in the news headlines. All right. Let me know if this video helped you out from an educational standpoint, understanding what happened with NVIDIA, where it's going next, the plan for tomorrow. I will be watching the semiconductor sector very strongly. Palantir has a lot of gap to fill down here underneath that 92 area. So if it gets drastic tomorrow, we do have Powell speaking as well. So if Powell doesn't come in with good news, we're coming back down even lower. I'm not going to give all these levels that I normally do on a Sunday market analysis, but we want to watch 530 on SPY. Okay. That is a very key level for us to hold. 530 on SPY. If we can't hold that, this whole trend right, we'll start breaking down and we'll start coming back to those lower ends of the levels. Okay. However, still be mindful. There are traps below. Dips could be bought and we could squeeze. All right. So as we come lower, still remain long-term bullish, but as we come down, we are still short-term bearish right now until otherwise. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to y'all. Thank y'all so much. If you notice a difference in the audio, let me know down below as well. Make sure you join Leverage University. If you want to get these signals, I want to shout out to everyone inside of our Discord that is following what we're doing. We have a lot of awesome testimonials, in my opinion. Right, David there saying, "Keep going." I'm holding. We're saying here they're gonna print in the morning. Ben, right there. We got Dreama, right? She also got into our Apple puts as well, right? Awesome job from everybody today, and just in general, because as you can see, I want to educate. I want people to understand what they're taking and why I'm taking it. I'm just a guide. So if I enter something, you don't have to follow exactly what I'm entering, but you will know why I took it. You will understand the chart. You will understand where I'm stopping, if it's good still, right? The exact contracts I'm in, the risk tolerance, the stop losses, all those things. All right. So would love to have you inside the community to learn, to educate yourself. And I am transparent about the losses as well. Okay. We do take losses, but as you can see, I got back into the trade because I liked it. So stopped it, wasn't working in my favor, got back in, loved it. And the original trade idea was working to perfection. All right. Talk to y'all soon. Peace, love, and blessings. See y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.